The pregnancy test hit the marble bathroom floor with a sound that echoed like a gunshot. Positive. Eva Castellano gripped the sink so hard her knuckles turned white. 3 years. 3 lost pregnancies. 3 tiny caskets she never saw buried because she collapsed before the funerals ended. And now there was a pink line mocking her. You've been in there for 20 minutes. Oliver Ricci's voice cut through the heavy bathroom door. It wasn't concern. It was the clinical observation of a man used to timing everything. Your father called, wants to know if you've ovulated this month. Eva grabbed the test and yanked the door open. Oliver was leaning against their bedroom wall. His bedroom, she always thought, because this suffocating mansion would never be hers. In an impeccable suit at 11 in the morning, wearing that expression she hated, polite indifference. Tell my father. Eva threw the test at him, which he caught midair with reflexes meant for dodging bullets, not plastic, that my uterus isn't his property. Yet. Oliver looked at the test, then at her. Something crossed his face, too quick for Eva to decipher before the marble mask returned. Are congratulations in order? He asked, and Eva couldn't detect sarcasm, but she also couldn't detect anything human. I don't know. Eva crossed her arms, still wearing her silk nightgown. Want to bet how long before I stain it with blood this time? She saw it, a muscle pulse in his jaw. Good. 3 years married and Eva had learned. Oliver Ricci felt nothing for her beyond contractual obligation, but he hated waste. And 3 lost babies were supreme waste for a man whose family built legacies, not just fortunes. Have you called the doctor? Oliver set the test on the dresser, away from her, as if it were a grenade without a pin. No. Eva, I'm not calling. She sat on the edge of their bed, another thing that never felt like theirs. Actually, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to pretend this doesn't exist until I can't pretend anymore. That's immature. That's survival. Eva looked at him, really looked, searching for any sign that the man she'd shared a bed with for 3 years had blood in his veins, not ice. Do you know what it's like to have hope 3 times and bury it 3 times? No, Oliver admitted, and Eva almost preferred when he lied. But I know what obligation is, and your obligation in this marriage is to try. Obligation. Of course. Eva had forgotten for a second. She was an obligation. A corporate merger using flesh and blood instead of paper and ink. When her father, Lorenzo Castellano, negotiated her hand to unite 2 of the most powerful families on the East Coast, he used the word legacy 12 times. The word love, not once. You know what's funny? Eva stood grabbing clothes from the closet without looking. Anything to get out of that room, that conversation, that marriage. I had plans, architecture school, a studio in the city, restoring historic brownstones, small things, silly things. They're not silly, Oliver said, and Eva paused because that sounded almost genuine. Doesn't matter anymore. She went into the closet to change, closing the door between them. Because now my only function is to be an incubator, and I'm not even good at that. Silence from the other side. Eva put on jeans and a sweater, mechanical movements from 3 years of practice dressing quickly to escape his presence. When she came out, Oliver was still there, but he was on the phone. Yes, Dr. Morrison. Positive. No, she doesn't want to. I understand. Tomorrow at 9 works. He hung up and looked at Eva. You have an appointment tomorrow. Different protocol this time. I don't want a different protocol. I do. Eva took a step toward him, that familiar rage boiling. You want? Since when do you want anything besides following your father's orders? Something darkened in Oliver's eyes, green like broken bottle glass. Careful, Eva. Or what? She took another step. They were inches apart now. You'll divorce me? Send me back to my father like defective merchandise? Please, Oliver. Spare me. He grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt? It never was. But firm enough to make her stop. You think I don't know you hate me? Oliver asked, voice low. Dangerous. You think for the last 3 years I haven't noticed every look of contempt, every cutting word, every time you turn your back when I get into bed? Eva tried to pull her arm away, but he didn't let go. Then divorce me. I can't. You won't. Because it would ruin your plans, the merger, the legacy, the fucking empire. Because I promised to keep you alive. Oliver released her so fast Eva stumbled. And if I divorce you, your father marries you off to Nicola Rossi in less than a month. And you know what he does to wives. Eva knew. Everyone knew. Nicola Rossi collected young wives and discarded them when they got too old. or too problematic. Nobody asked where they went. Nobody wanted to know. So I'm your prisoner. You're my wife. Oliver adjusted his shirt cuffs, that gesture Eva recognized as him recomposing his mask. And you're going to the appointment tomorrow. What if I don't? He stopped at the bedroom door, hand on the frame. Then I'll tell your father you're pregnant and you're going to the fucking appointment. Would you rather go with me or with his armed escort? The door closed before Eva could answer. She stood there alone in the bedroom of a dead marriage, hand on her belly where something tiny and fragile was trying to cling to life. Please, she thought, don't make me love you too. Because Eva had already loved 3 times and buried 3 times. And she wasn't sure she'd survive a 4th empty casket. 2 hours later, Oliver's office was on the top floor of Ricci Tower, overlooking the city his family practically owned. He wasn't looking out the window. He was busy staring at the pregnancy test on his desk. Positive. 4th attempt. You look like someone who just got news of a death, not a life. Luca Ricci walked in without knocking, because younger brothers never learned boundaries. Let me guess. Eva's pregnant again. Oliver didn't confirm. He didn't need to. You know one day she's just going to leave, right? Luca poured himself whiskey from the decanter even though it was noon. 3 losses destroy anyone. A 4th? She's not leaving. Why not? Because you're going to lock her up? Good luck. Eva Castellano is many things, but submissive isn't on the list. Oliver finally looked at his brother. She doesn't leave because she has nowhere to go. Her father sold her. Her family forgot her. And I'm the only thing between her and something much worse. What a savior you are. Luca downed the whiskey. I'm sure she thanks you every day. She hates me. Well, you bought her. Luca shrugged. Like literally contract and everything. Oliver stood, grabbing his jacket. I didn't buy her. Our fathers negotiated an alliance. Using her as currency. Luca corrected. Oliver, I love you, brother. But you have to admit this marriage has been shit since day one. It had been. Oliver knew that. On their wedding day, Eva cried through the entire ceremony. Not delicate tears of an emotional bride. Silent, desperate tears of someone watching their own life being buried. And Oliver stood there saying I do to a contract, not to a person. 3 years later, they were strangers sharing a last name and an address. And now, DNA. Where are you going? Luca asked as Oliver walked past him. To take care of my wife. Does she know you care? Oliver stopped at the door. No, he admitted, and it's better that way. Because in their world, caring was a weakness. And Oliver Ricci couldn't afford weaknesses. Not when he had enemies waiting for any opening to attack. And certainly not when his wife was already enough of a target without him painting a bigger one on her with the word beloved. But as he drove back home, to the luxury prison Eva hated, Oliver looked at the pregnancy test in the glove compartment. And for the first time in 3 years, he felt something beyond obligation. He felt fear, because this time, he wanted it to work too. And that was far more dangerous than any enemy. Eva didn't go home after leaving the bedroom. She went to the one place in the Ricci mansion that felt remotely hers, the greenhouse at the back of the property. It was neglected when she arrived 3 years ago, Oliver's late mother's project, abandoned after her death. Eva had restored it, plant by plant, because tending to living things that didn't judge her felt safer than interacting with humans who did. She was replanting orchids when she heard the door open. Not Oliver. His footsteps were measured, controlled. These were lighter. You know he's losing his mind, right? Natasha Chen, Oliver's cousin and the family's lawyer, appeared between the ferns holding 2 coffee cups. She offered one to Eva. He's always losing his mind about something. Eva took the coffee without looking up. Last month it was the shipping routes. This month it's my uterus. Fair point. Natasha sat on the workbench, her designer suit somehow remaining pristine in the dirt-filled space. But for what it's worth, I've never seen him scared before today. Oliver doesn't get scared, he gets strategic. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Natasha sipped her coffee. You're pregnant again. It wasn't a question. News travels fast in this family. Luca has a big mouth. Natasha paused. Are you okay? Eva's hands stilled on the orchid roots. I don't know how to answer that anymore. She admitted quietly. 3 times I let myself hope. 3 times I picked out nursery colors I never used. 3 times Her voice cracked. Natasha set down her coffee and did something unexpected. She hugged Eva. Real, tight, human contact that Eva hadn't realized she desperately needed. I'm sorry. Natasha whispered. I'm so sorry you've been going through this alone. I'm not alone. I have a husband. Do you, though? Eva pulled back, wiping her eyes quickly. What do you want, Natasha? To give you this. Natasha pulled an envelope from her bag. Before Oliver finds out I'm here. Eva opened it. Inside were adoption papers. Completed, notarized, waiting only for signatures. What is this? Your way out, Natasha said carefully. Not from the marriage, I can't help you there without starting a war. But from the pressure, from the constant cycle of hope and loss. Eva stared at the papers. I can't adopt. My father would. Your father doesn't control everything, Natasha interrupted. And technically you're a Ricci now. Oliver's signature is the only one that matters besides yours. Oliver would never agree to this. Are you sure about that? Eva looked up sharply. What do you know? Natasha hesitated, and Eva recognized it immediately. The lawyer was weighing confidentiality against compassion. He asked me about adoption options, Natasha finally said. 2 weeks ago, before you knew you were pregnant this time. Eva felt like the ground shifted. Oliver wanted to adopt? He wanted to give you options. His words, not mine. Natasha stood. Look, I'm not saying he's husband of the year. He's emotionally constipated and treats marriage like a business merger. But he's not a monster, Eva. He's just damaged in different ways. That doesn't excuse. I'm not excusing anything. Natasha cut her off gently. I'm just saying maybe you both need to actually talk instead of existing in parallel universes under the same roof. She walked to the door, then paused. The papers are yours. Use them or don't. But know that you have choices even in this life. Natasha smiled sadly. And for what it's worth, you'd be an amazing mother, biological or not. The door closed, leaving Eva alone with her plants and a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. That evening Oliver came home to find Eva in his study. She was sitting in his chair, with the adoption papers spread across his desk like evidence at a crime scene. Natasha has a big mouth, he said, loosening his tie. She has a conscience, Eva corrected, not moving from his seat. Something you might want to look into. Oliver poured himself scotch from the bar cart, his back to her. Are you going to tell me what this is about, or are we playing 20 questions? When were you going to tell me you looked into adoption? His hand paused mid-pour, just for a second. But Eva saw it. I wasn't. Oliver finished pouring, took a drink. It was preliminary research, nothing concrete. Preliminary research. Eva laughed, but there was no humor in it. God, even when you're trying to be decent, you sound like a corporate memo. Oliver turned to face her, leaning against the bar cart. What do you want from me, Eva? I want to know why. She stood holding the papers. Why would you research adoption when your entire family is obsessed with bloodlines and heirs? Because watching you break apart 3 times was enough. Oliver said it so matter-of-factly that Eva almost missed the weight of it. Because maybe there are other ways to build a family that don't require you to destroy yourself trying. Eva stared at him. You've never said anything like that before. You've never asked. I shouldn't have to ask my husband to give a damn about whether I live or die. You're not dying. Oliver's voice went sharp. The doctors said, the doctors don't know what's wrong with me. Eva threw the papers on the desk. 4 pregnancies, Oliver. 4. And they still can't tell me why my body rejects them. Why I can't do the one thing I'm supposed to do in this marriage. That's not the one thing, isn't it? Eva challenged. What else am I here for? Companionship? We barely speak. Love? We both know that's a joke. I'm here to produce an heir, and I'm failing spectacularly. Oliver set down his glass with controlled precision. You want to know why I researched adoption? He walked around the desk until he was close enough that Eva had to look up to meet his eyes. Because 2 months ago, I found you on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m. You were asleep, Eva, curled up on cold tile, holding a baby blanket you'd hidden in the back of the closet. Eva's breath caught. She didn't remember that night. Or maybe she'd blocked it out. You looked so small, Oliver continued, voice quieter now, and I realized that I'd spent 3 years treating you like an obligation when you were the one paying the real price for this arrangement. So yes, I researched options. Because maybe we both deserve better than this endless cycle. Eva didn't know what to say. In 3 years, Oliver had never been this honest. Why didn't you tell me? She finally asked. Because I thought you'd see it as giving up on you, Oliver admitted. And I'm not very good at this. He gestured vaguely between them. The talking about feelings thing. No shit. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Actual humor. Eva couldn't remember the last time she'd seen that. So what do we do? She asked. Oliver looked at the adoption papers on his desk. We have options, he said carefully. We can wait, see if this pregnancy holds. We can pursue adoption in parallel. We can... I want to adopt. Eva interrupted. Even if this pregnancy works, I want to adopt. Oliver studied her. Your father will lose his mind. My father lost any say in my life when he sold me to yours. Eva picked up the papers. I'm done living for his legacy or your family's expectations. If I'm going to be stuck in this marriage, I'm at least going to be a mother on my own terms. Something shifted in Oliver's expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Okay. Eva blinked. Okay, that's it? What did you expect? A fight? Oliver took the papers from her, scanning them. Natasha's thorough. This is all legal, properly structured. We can start the process next week. Just like that. Just like that. Oliver looked up from the papers. Though I have one condition. Of course he did. What? We do this together, Oliver said. Not as business partners or contractual obligations. As partners. Real ones. Eva searched his face for the catch, the angle, the corporate strategy. She found none. I don't know how to do that with you, she admitted. Neither do I. Oliver set the papers down. But maybe it's time we figured it out. For the first time in 3 years, Eva looked at her husband and saw possibility instead of prison. It was terrifying. But maybe, just maybe, it was also a beginning. The Ricci family dinner happened every Sunday at 7 p.m. sharp. Attendance was mandatory. Absence was treason. Eva had learned to endure them with wine and strategic silence. But tonight was different. Tonight, she and Oliver were about to drop a bomb that would make the last 3 years of Cold War look like a honeymoon. You're fidgeting, Oliver said as they walked through the marble hallways of the main Ricci estate, his childhood home, his father's throne room. I'm preparing for battle. Eva smoothed her black dress. Armor, really. There's a difference. They're family. That's what makes it a battle. Oliver almost smiled. Almost. The dining room doors opened, revealing the usual suspects. Giovanni Ricci at the head of the table, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. Oliver's stepmother, Patricia, perfectly coiffed and strategically silent. Luca sprawled in his chair like he was at a bar, not a family dinner. Natasha, who caught Eva's eye and nodded once. And Eva's own father, Lorenzo Castellano, sitting at Giovanni's right hand like a king's advisor. Eva hated that her father was here. But then, this alliance wasn't just about her and Oliver. It never had been. You're late. Giovanni didn't look up from his wine. We're exactly on time. Oliver pulled out Eva's chair before sitting beside her. Traffic. In your own driveway? Luca snorted. Creative. Luca. Giovanni's voice could cut glass. Quiet. Dinner began with the usual performance. Small talk that meant nothing. Business discussion disguised as casual conversation, and everyone pretending this was a normal family gathering instead of a strategic meeting. Eva pushed food around her plate and waited. It was Oliver who finally broke the script. Eva and I have an announcement, he said, setting down his fork with deliberate precision. The table went silent. Please tell me she's pregnant. Lorenzo spoke first, leaning forward with hungry eyes. It's been 3 years, Eva. Your mother managed 4 children by your age. Eva's hand tightened on her knife. Actually, Oliver started, but Eva cut him off. I am pregnant. She met her father's gaze without flinching. 4th time, but we're not here to discuss my uterus's track record. Eva, Oliver's voice held a warning. No, she turned to him. They need to hear this. Back to the table. Oliver and I are adopting a child. The silence was deafening. Then chaos. Absolutely not. Giovanni spoke with the authority of a man used to being obeyed. The Ricci heir must be blood. We're not replacing a biological heir. Oliver's voice stayed calm. We're expanding our family through adoption as well. This is ridiculous. Lorenzo slammed his palm on the table. Eva, you're pregnant now. Why would you? Because I've lost 3 pregnancies. Eva interrupted, her voice steady despite her racing heart. And I'm not going to spend the next however many years as a breeding experiment for your legacy plans. Watch your tone. Lorenzo's face reddened. You're my daughter. I was your daughter. Eva stood, and Oliver immediately stood with her. Until you sold me like property to cement a business deal. So forgive me if I don't take your parenting advice seriously. Patricia gasped. Luca grinned. Natasha looked like she was trying not to cheer. Giovanni studied them both with cold calculation. "Sit down," he commanded. "Both of you." "No," Oliver said quietly, and Eva's head snapped toward him. "We came to inform you of our decision, not ask permission. Eva is my wife. Our family planning is our business. Your wife's job is to produce heirs." Giovanni's voice went dangerous. "Pure bloodline heirs, not charity cases." Eva felt Oliver tense beside her. "Careful." Oliver's tone dropped to something Eva had only heard once before, when a rival family lieutenant made the mistake of threatening her at a charity gala. "You're talking about my future child." "Your adopted child," Giovanni corrected, "which means nothing in this family." "Then we'll make our own family," Eva said, surprising herself with how steady her voice was. "One that doesn't measure worth in DNA percentages and balance sheets." Lorenzo stood now, fury written across his face. "You ungrateful." "Enough." Oliver's voice cracked like a whip. "Eva, we're leaving." "Like hell you are." Giovanni stood, and suddenly the room felt smaller, more dangerous. "You walk out that door, Oliver, and you're choosing her over this family." "Yes," Oliver said simply. "I am." The room went dead silent. Eva stared at her husband. This man who'd been a stranger for 3 years, who treated their marriage like a corporate merger, who'd never once chosen her over anything. He was choosing her now. "You don't mean that." Giovanni's voice held a warning. "Think about what you're throwing away." "I'm not throwing anything away." Oliver took Eva's hand, the first time he'd done so voluntarily in months. "I'm investing in something that actually matters. My wife, my future family, my choice." "Your choice." Giovanni laughed bitterly. "You think you have choices in this life? In our world? I'm making one now." Oliver started walking, pulling Eva gently with him. "We'll see ourselves out." "Oliver!" Giovanni's voice stopped them at the door. "You do this and there are consequences." Oliver turned back, still holding Eva's hand. "There are always consequences, Dad. But for once, they'll be for something I actually believe in." They walked out. In the car, Eva's hands were shaking. They were 10 minutes from the estate before she could speak. "You just declared war on your family." Her voice came out strangled. "For me. For us." Oliver corrected, eyes on the road. "And it's not war. It's boundaries. Long overdue boundaries." "Oliver, you don't understand. My father, your father, they don't do boundaries. They do power plays and consequences. Let them try." Oliver's jaw set in that way Eva recognized. Determination. "I'm tired of living by their rules." "Since when?" He glanced at her briefly before returning to the road. "Since I watched you give up everything for a marriage you didn't want, and realized I'd never fought for anything in my entire life." "Not really." He paused. "You fight them every day just by existing on your own terms. Maybe it's time I learned how." Eva felt something crack in her chest. 3 years of ice. Melting. "I don't know what to do with this version of you," she admitted quietly. "Neither do I," Oliver said. "But we'll figure it out." They drove in silence for a while. Then Eva's phone buzzed. Her father. "You've embarrassed me for the last time. Don't come crying when Oliver throws you away like the defective merchandise you are." Eva deleted it without responding. "What did he say?" Oliver asked. "Too perceptive. Nothing worth repeating." Oliver's hand found hers across the center console. "You're not defective," he said quietly, "and I'm not throwing you away. Ever." Eva looked at their joined hands. This small point of contact that felt bigger than it should. "Why now?" she asked. "Why choose me now, after 3 years of nothing?" Oliver was quiet for so long Eva thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because I watched you on that bathroom floor, Eva, holding a blanket for a baby that never came home. And I realized that I'd spent 3 years protecting you from external threats while I was the biggest threat of all. The one inside your house. The one who made you feel worthless." "Oliver, let me finish." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not good at this. At feelings, at communication, at being a real husband instead of a business arrangement. But I'm tired of watching you break apart while I stand there doing nothing." He glanced at her. "You deserve better. And maybe I can't give you love. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I can give you partnership, choice, respect." Eva felt tears burning behind her eyes. "That's more than I expected when I walked down that aisle 3 years ago. That's a depressingly low bar. Welcome to arranged marriages." Oliver pulled into their driveway, but didn't get out immediately. "For what it's worth," he said, still holding her hand, "I think you're going to be an incredible mother." Biological, adopted, or both? Ava looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she'd never seen before. Hope. We're really doing this? She asked. The adoption. Even with everything that just happened. Especially because of everything that just happened. Oliver brought her hand to his lips, pressing a brief kiss to her knuckles. Time to build something that's actually ours. And for the first time in 3 years, Ava believed him. 3 weeks after the family dinner, Ava woke up to blood. Not spotting. Not the gentle warning her body had given the previous 3 times. This was a flood. She made it to the bathroom before her legs gave out. The pain came in waves. Sharp, brutal, unforgiving. Ava pressed her forehead against the cold tile and tried to breathe through it. She didn't scream, didn't cry out, didn't call for Oliver. She just endured, because that's what she'd learned to do. But Oliver found her anyway. Ava? His voice came from the bedroom, groggy with sleep. You okay? She couldn't answer. Another wave of pain hit, stealing her breath. The bathroom door burst open. Oliver took one look at her, at the blood, at her white face, at the way she was curled on the floor, and moved faster than she'd ever seen him move. Jesus Christ. He was on his knees beside her, hands hovering like he was afraid to touch her. How long have you been? 20 minutes. Ava managed through gritted teeth. Maybe 30. I don't know. Oliver pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Shaking hands, Ava noticed through the pain, and dialed. Dr. Morrison. It's Oliver Ricci. Eva's bleeding. Yes, heavily. No, she can barely move. Okay. We're coming now. He hung up and looked at Eva with something she'd never seen in his eyes before. Genuine fear. I'm going to carry you to the car, he said carefully. It's going to hurt, I'm sorry. Oliver, I can... You can't. He cut her off gently. And you don't have to. He lifted her like she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest. Ava wanted to protest, to maintain some dignity, but another cramp hit and she buried her face in his shoulder instead. I've got you, Oliver murmured, carrying her through the house. I've got you, Ava. Just hold on. At the hospital, Dr. Morrison confirmed what Ava already knew. I'm so sorry. The doctor's face was genuinely sad. There's no heartbeat. You're miscarrying. Eva nodded. She'd heard this 3 times before. Each time it got simultaneously easier and harder to process. We can do a D&C to... No. Eva's voice came out hollow. Let it happen naturally, like the others. Ava, that could take days and be incredibly painful. I said no. Eva looked at Oliver, who was standing rigid by the window. I want to go home. Dr. Morrison looked between them. All right, but you call me if the bleeding gets worse, if you develop a fever or if the pain becomes unmanageable. She squeezed Eva's hand. I really am sorry. I know you wanted this. After the doctor left, the room filled with thick silence. Say it. Eva finally spoke, staring at the ceiling. Whatever you're thinking, just say it. I'm not thinking anything. Liar. Eva turned her head to look at him. You're thinking this is the 4th time. You're thinking maybe your father was right. Maybe I am defective merchandise. Oliver moved so fast, Eva flinched. He was beside her bed, hands gripping the rails. Don't. His voice was raw. Don't you dare put words in my mouth, and don't you dare repeat the garbage your father says. Then what are you thinking? Oliver's knuckles were white on the bed rail. I'm thinking that I hate watching you go through this, he said quietly. I'm thinking that I'd trade places with you if I could. I'm thinking that every time you lose a baby, a part of you dies too, and I don't know how to stop it. Eva's eyes burned. You can't stop it, Oliver. Bodies do what bodies do. That doesn't make it fair. Nothing about our lives is fair. Ava laughed, but it came out broken. We were sold into a marriage neither of us wanted. I'm expected to produce heirs like a prize mare, and my body keeps rejecting the one thing that might make this whole nightmare worthwhile. You think a baby would make this worthwhile? Oliver asked carefully. This marriage? Eva closed her eyes. I think a baby would give me purpose beyond being your contractual obligation. The bed dipped. Eva's eyes flew open to find Oliver sitting on the edge, close enough to touch but not touching. You want to know what I was really thinking? He asked. While we were in that waiting room? What? I was thinking about the adoption papers. Oliver looked at his hands. And how maybe this is a sign that we should focus on that instead. Build a family a different way. Your family will never accept. I don't give a damn what my family accepts. Oliver interrupted. I care about what you need. And right now you need to stop destroying yourself trying to meet everyone else's expectations. Eva stared at him. Who are you? And what did you do with my husband? Oliver's lips twitched, despite everything. I'm still figuring that out myself, he admitted. But I know I'm done watching you suffer for other people's legacies. A nurse knocked and entered with discharge papers. You're free to go, Mrs. Ricci. Just take it easy for the next few days. Back home, Oliver helped Eva to their bedroom, and for once it felt like their bedroom, not just his, and settled her on the bed with more pillows than necessary. I can get my own water, Eva protested when he handed her a glass. I know, but you don't have to. He sat on the opposite side of the bed, maintaining distance but not leaving. You don't have to stay, Eva said quietly. I know you have work. Work can wait. Oliver, Eva. He turned to look at her fully. I've spent 3 years prioritizing work over everything. Over you. Over us. Over any chance we had at making this marriage into something real. He paused. I'm done doing that. You can't just change overnight. Watch me. Eva wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But 3 years of disappointment had taught her to protect herself. What happens tomorrow? She asked. When the grief isn't fresh and the guilt fades? When your family starts pressuring you again about heirs and bloodlines? Tomorrow I wake up and choose you again, Oliver said simply. And the day after that. And the day after that. That's not realistic. Maybe not, he admitted. But it's what I'm going to do anyway. Eva felt something shift inside her. Not love. That was too big, too complicated, too dangerous. But something softer. Something like trust beginning to take root. I want to move forward with the adoption, she said. Even with all this. Especially with all this. Okay. Just okay? Just okay. Oliver reached across the bed, offering his hand. We'll call the agency tomorrow. Start the process officially. Eva took his hand, their fingers intertwining. Your father is going to make our lives hell. He's been doing that anyway. Oliver squeezed her hand. At least now we'll be facing it together. They sat like that for a long moment. Two people who'd been strangers in a marriage, slowly becoming something else. Something undefined but real. Oliver? Eva said quietly. Yeah, thank you. For today. For being there. You don't have to thank me for basic decency, Eva. In our world? Yeah, I do. Oliver's jaw tightened. Then our world is more screwed up than I thought. He shifted closer. Get some rest. I'll be here when you wake up. You don't have to. I know. He settled back against the headboard. But I want to. Eva closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling her under. But before sleep claimed her, she felt Oliver's thumb brush across her knuckles, a small gesture that meant more than any grand declaration. For the first time in 4 miscarriages, Eva wasn't facing the grief alone, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start healing. 2 days later, Eva woke to find Oliver's side of the bed empty but still warm. She could hear him moving around downstairs. The bleeding had slowed. The physical pain was fading. The emotional pain would take longer, it always did. She found Oliver in the kitchen making breakfast. Actual breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. Not his usual grab-and-go routine. You cook? Eva asked from the doorway. Oliver turned, spatula in hand. Poorly, but Natasha sent me a tutorial video. He gestured to his phone propped against the coffee maker. Apparently I've been doing scrambled eggs wrong my entire life. Eva felt her lips twitch despite everything. How does one do scrambled eggs wrong? According to Natasha, every way I've been doing them. He plated the eggs. Sit, eat, doctor's orders. Doctor said rest, not eat your potentially inedible cooking. Ouch. But Oliver smiled. Actually smiled. Fair. Eva sat at the kitchen island and took a bite. They were not terrible. Edible, she declared. Barely. I'll take it. Oliver poured coffee. Natasha's coming by later, with the adoption paperwork, if you're up for it. Eva's heart jumped. Already? I called the agency yesterday, expedited the process. Oliver set the coffee in front of her. Told them we were serious. They're sending someone to do the home study next week. Oliver, that's fast. I know. He met her eyes. Too fast? We can slow down if... No, Eva said quickly. No, it's perfect. I'm surprised. I told you I was done waiting, Oliver said quietly. Time to build something that's actually ours. And looking at him now, at this man who was slowly becoming someone she didn't recognize but was beginning to trust, Eva thought maybe they finally had a chance. Not at the perfect marriage, but at a real one. 6 months later, Eva stood in the nursery they'd spent weeks preparing together. Soft gray walls, white furniture, a mobile with stars and moons that Oliver had assembled wrong twice before getting it right. Books lining the shelves, some in English, some in Italian, because Eva insisted their child should know both languages. Their child. Tomorrow, they were bringing home a 3-month-old boy named Marcus. The adoption had gone through faster than expected, helped by Natasha's legal expertise and Oliver's refusal to let his family interfere. Giovanni hadn't spoken to Oliver in 4 months. Lorenzo had disowned Eva via email, very personal, and somehow Eva had never felt freer. "You're doing that thing again." Oliver's voice came from the doorway. The staring at empty rooms like they'll disappear thing. Eva turned to find her husband, and he was starting to feel like her husband now, not just a legal obligation, leaning against the frame with his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "What if I'm terrible at this? What if I don't know what to do when he cries? What if, then we'll figure it out together." Oliver crossed the room to her. "That's what parents do. They figure it out. You're being very calm about becoming a father in less than 24 hours. I'm not calm. I'm good at faking it." He took her hands. "Eva, I'm absolutely terrified. But I'm also more sure about this than I've been about anything in my life." Eva searched his face. 6 months ago, this man had been a stranger. Now he knew how she took her coffee, that she reorganized the nursery when she was anxious, that she cried during commercials but never during actual sad movies. They'd become something neither of them expected, friends. Maybe more eventually, but friends first. "What if your family tries something?" Eva voiced her biggest fear. "What if they won't?" Oliver's voice went hard. "I've made it very clear what happens if they go near our son." "Our son," Eva tested the words. God, that sounds surreal. Good surreal or bad surreal? Terrifying surreal. She paused. But also the best surreal. Oliver pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her in a gesture that had become familiar over the past months. These quiet moments where they just existed together. "We're going to be okay," he murmured into her hair. "All 3 of us." Eva wanted to believe him. Then her phone rang. Dr. Morrison's name flashed on the screen. Eva's stomach dropped. The doctor never called after hours unless— "Hello?" Eva answered, Oliver tensing beside her. "Eva." Dr. Morrison's voice was strange. "Careful. I need you to come to my office tomorrow morning before you pick up Marcus." "What's wrong? Is something—" "Nothing's wrong, but we need to talk. In person. Can you be here at 8? Eva exchanged glances with Oliver. "Yes. We'll be there." She hung up, her hands shaking. "What did she say?" Oliver demanded. "She wants to see us tomorrow morning." Eva pressed her hand to her stomach, a nervous habit she'd never broken. "Before we get Marcus, Oliver, what if there's something wrong with the adoption? What if—" "Don't spiral." Oliver cupped her face. "We'll go tomorrow, we'll talk to her, and then we'll bring our son home, okay?" Eva nodded, trying to breathe through the panic. But sleep didn't come easy that night. The next morning, Dr. Morrison's office felt different in the early morning light. Colder, more clinical. Eva gripped Oliver's hand as they sat across from the doctor. "Thank you for coming." Dr. Morrison pulled out a file. "I have some unexpected news." "About the adoption?" Eva's voice came out strangled. "No, the adoption is fine. This is about you, Eva." The doctor paused. "When you came in for your final post-miscarriage checkup last month, we ran comprehensive blood work, standard procedure, but one of the tests came back with an anomaly, so I ran it again and again." "What kind of anomaly?" Oliver's voice was tight. Dr. Morrison looked directly at Eva. "You're pregnant." The world stopped. "That's not possible," Eva heard herself say. "I had a miscarriage 6 months ago. I've had regular periods since then. I can't be." "You're approximately 18 weeks pregnant." Dr. Morrison turned her computer screen to show an ultrasound image. "This is from the scan I did this morning after confirming the blood work." Eva stared at the screen. A baby. A real baby. Moving, growing, alive. "How?" Oliver's voice was barely above a whisper. "How did we not know?" Eva's periods continued light but regular, not uncommon in some pregnancies. No morning sickness. The pregnancy symptoms were minimal, and given her history, she likely attributed any changes to stress or the adoption process. Dr. Morrison paused. "But this baby is healthy. Strong heartbeat, normal development. Everything looks good." Eva couldn't breathe. 18 weeks? She finally managed. "I'm almost halfway through?" "Yes, which means—" Dr. Morrison smiled gently. "You were pregnant when you started the adoption process. Your body was trying again, even as you were choosing another path. Oliver's hand was crushing Eva's. She squeezed back just as hard. Is it? Eva couldn't finish the question. Couldn't say, will I lose this one too? But Dr. Morrison understood. You're past the point where you lost the previous pregnancies. Significantly past it. She leaned forward. Eva, I can't promise you anything, but the fact that you've made it this far without knowing, without stress or constant monitoring, without the pressure and anxiety of trying, that's actually very positive. Eva looked at Oliver. His eyes were bright. Not quite tears, but close. We're having a baby, he said like he was testing the words. A biological baby. And tomorrow, we're adopting Marcus. Eva added, her hand moving to her stomach where apparently a baby had been growing this whole time. We're going to have 2 babies. Technically, yes. Dr. Morrison grinned. Congratulations, you're going to be incredibly busy. In the car, neither of them spoke for a full 5 minutes. Then Eva started laughing. Hysterical, disbelieving laughter that turned into tears halfway through. Oliver pulled over immediately, unbuckling both their seatbelts to pull her against him. I know, he murmured. I know, Eva. I know. We're having 2 babies. Eva sobbed into his shoulder. Oliver, we're having 2 babies. How is this real? I have no idea. He pulled back to look at her, wiping her tears with his thumbs. But we're doing this. Together. Your family is going to lose their minds. Good. They deserve it. Oliver's hand moved to her stomach. Still flat. Still showing no signs. Can I? Eva nodded, placing her hand over his. There's a baby in there, she whispered. A baby that survived when I wasn't even paying attention, when I'd given up trying. Maybe that's why it survived, Oliver said quietly. Because you weren't destroying yourself trying to make it happen. They sat there on the side of the road, hands on Eva's stomach, processing the impossible. I'm terrified, Eva admitted. What if I lose this one too? What if? Then we'll handle it. Oliver interrupted gently. But Eva, you're 18 weeks. You made it past all the danger points. You made it while planning an adoption, while cutting off toxic family, while learning to actually live instead of just survive. What if the baby knows? Eva's voice broke. What if it knows I wasn't trying for it, that I'd already moved on? Then it knows you're strong enough to be its mother. Oliver kissed her forehead. And smart enough to not put all your eggs in one basket. Literally. Eva choked out a laugh through tears. Did you just make a pregnancy pun? Too soon? Way too soon. But she was smiling. Actually smiling. Oliver, we're going to have 2 babies under one. Do you understand how insane that is? I'm starting to. He buckled them back in. But first, we need to go pick up our son. Because Marcus is waiting, and he doesn't care about dramatic plot twists. Eva looked at her husband. This man who'd been a stranger, then an obligation, then a friend, and now something she was almost ready to call love. 2 babies, she repeated. We're really doing this? We really are. Oliver started the car. Ready? Eva placed her hand on her stomach again, feeling for something she couldn't possibly feel yet, but knowing it was there. No, she admitted, but let's do it anyway. At the adoption agency, Marcus was perfect. Dark curls, bright eyes, and a smile that made Eva's heart stop the moment she held him. Hey, sweet boy, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm your mom, and that's your dad. And you have a sibling on the way who doesn't know you exist yet, but we'll tell them all about you. Oliver stood beside her, his hand on her back, staring at their son like he'd hung the moon. He's so small. Oliver's voice was rough. How are humans this small? You were this small once. Eva teased, adjusting Marcus in her arms. That's horrifying. But Oliver reached out, letting Marcus grip his finger. Hey, kid. Welcome to the family. Fair warning, we have no idea what we're doing. Marcus gurgled, unimpressed. The caseworker smiled at them. You 2 are going to be wonderful parents. Eva looked at Oliver, at Marcus, at her hand still resting on her stomach, where another miracle was growing. 6 months ago, she was alone in a bathroom, bleeding out her 4th pregnancy, convinced she was broken beyond repair. Now she stood here with a husband who'd chosen her, a son in her arms, and a baby growing inside her that refused to give up. Yeah, Eva whispered, kissing Marcus's forehead. Maybe we will be. 4 months later, Eva's water broke during a business meeting. Oliver's business meeting, specifically, which she'd crashed because Marcus needed his vaccination records, and Oliver had left them at home like the disaster of a new parent he'd become. I'm so sorry to interrupt, Eva started, then felt the gush. Oh no. Oliver looked up from his presentation to a room full of associates, saw Eva's face and immediately went pale. Meeting's over, he announced, already moving toward her. Everyone out. Now. But Mr. Ricci, we haven't finished. Out. Oliver's voice left no room for argument. The room cleared in 30 seconds flat. Okay. Oliver gripped Eva's arms, looking slightly panicked. Okay, this is fine. We practiced this. I know what to do. Do you? No, he admitted. Absolutely not. Where's the hospital bag? Home. With Marcus. With the nanny who's probably wondering why we're both idiots. Another contraction hit. Eva grabbed Oliver's desk, breathing through it. Right. Okay. Car. We need the car. Oliver pulled out his phone, already dialing. Natasha, Eva's in labor. Yes, now. Can you get Marcus and meet us at the hospital? Thank you. He hung up and looked at Eva with barely controlled terror. Ready? Oliver, I've had 4 miscarriages and 1 successful adoption in the past year. I'm as ready as I'll ever be. 8 hours later. You're doing amazing. Oliver wiped Eva's forehead for the 100th time. So amazing. I'm dying. Eva gasped between contractions. This is murder. Why did humans evolve this way? I don't know, but I'm writing a strongly worded letter to evolution after this. Despite the pain, Eva laughed, then immediately regretted it as another contraction hit. Mrs. Ricci, you're fully dilated. Dr. Morrison appeared, already gloved up. Ready to meet your baby? Is that a trick question? Eva groaned. Because I feel like there's only one acceptable answer. Push on the next contraction, Dr. Morrison instructed. Eva pushed, and screamed, and crushed Oliver's hand so hard she heard bones crack. Jesus Christ. Oliver gasped, but didn't pull away. Break whatever you need to break. I deserve it for getting you pregnant. You're damn right you do. Eva bore down again, feeling like she was being split in half. I can see the head, Dr. Morrison called. One more big push, Eva. Come on. Eva pushed with everything she had left. And then, a cry. Small, indignant, alive. It's a boy, Dr. Morrison announced, lifting a tiny, screaming baby. A healthy baby boy. They placed him on Eva's chest, all vernix covered and furious at being evicted, and Eva fell completely apart. Hi, she sobbed, holding this impossible miracle against her skin. Hi, baby, I'm your mom. We've been waiting for you. Oliver leaned over them both, his own face wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. He's perfect. Oliver's voice cracked. Eva, he's perfect. He has your nose. Eva traced the tiny face with one finger. Poor kid. My nose is distinguished. Your nose is a weapon. But she was smiling. Couldn't stop smiling. What should we name him? They'd discussed names for months but never settled on one. It had felt like tempting fate. Oliver looked at his son, their biological miracle son, and said, Leo, after your grandfather, the good one. Eva's throat closed. Her mother's father, who died when she was 12, the only family member who'd ever truly loved her without conditions. Leo Ricci. Eva tested it. Yeah, that's perfect. 2 days later, coming home from the hospital felt surreal. Eva carried Leo while Oliver managed the bags and the car seat, and looked generally overwhelmed by logistics. How do people do this with twins? He muttered. How is that physically possible? Very carefully and with a lot of caffeine. Eva stepped through their front door to find Natasha waiting with Marcus on her hip. Welcome home. Natasha grinned. Marcus, look. Your brother is here. Marcus, now 7 months old and the most perfect baby in existence, Eva was completely unbiased, stared at the bundle in Eva's arms with intense concentration. Marcus, this is Leo. Eva knelt carefully, letting Marcus see. Your little brother. Can you say hi? Marcus reached out, gently patting Leo's head with the kind of care that made Eva's heart explode. Gentle, Marcus said, one of his few words, and Eva burst into tears for the 100th time that week. Hormones, she explained when everyone looked at her. And also our babies are perfect and I'm emotionally compromised. Oliver took Leo, cradling him with the confidence of someone who'd spent 4 months learning with Marcus, and wrapped his other arm around Eva. Look at us, he said quietly. We're a family, a real family. Against all odds, Natasha added, handing Marcus to Eva. Your fathers are going to lose their minds when they find out. They already know. Oliver's jaw tightened. My dad sent a text. 1 word, congratulations. No mention of Marcus, no acknowledgement of anything. His loss. Eva adjusted Marcus on her hip. Our family doesn't need his approval. Damn right it doesn't. Natasha grabbed her bag. Okay, I'm leaving before I get too emotional. Call me if you need anything, and I mean anything. I'm on speed dial. After she left, Oliver and Eva stood in their living room with their 2 sons, looking at each other over the chaos of baby gear and impossible circumstances. Remember 3 years ago, Eva said, when we could barely stand being in the same room? I remember thinking you hated me. I did hate you, Eva admitted. You were everything I thought I'd never escape from. And now, Eva looked at their sons, then at Oliver. Now you're everything I didn't know I needed, she said honestly. We built something real out of something broken, and I wouldn't change it. Oliver crossed to her, Leo still in his arms, and kissed her forehead. I love you, he said simply. I should have said it months ago, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Eva. Eva's eyes filled with tears again. Hormones were the worst. I love you too, she whispered. Even though you have a terrible nose and make awful scrambled eggs. My eggs have improved. Marginally. They stood there, their little family of 4, in the home they'd built together from the wreckage of an arranged marriage. And Eva realized, sometimes the best families aren't born. They're chosen. 2 years later, Marcus, no. Eva lunged across the backyard. We don't put worms in Leo's mouth. Marcus, now 2.5 and absolutely fearless, looked at her with complete innocence. Share? He offered, holding out a particularly fat earthworm. Not food, buddy. Oliver scooped up Marcus before he could protest. Remember, worms live outside. Snacks live inside. But Leo hungry. Leo's fine. Eva checked her 1-year-old, who was covered in dirt, and delighted about it. See? Still alive. No worms required. Oliver set Marcus down, who immediately ran off to terrorize the dog, a recent addition named Chaos, which was the most honest pet name Eva had ever heard. Our lives are insane, Oliver said, watching their sons create destruction in real time. Completely insane, Eva agreed, leaning against him. I wouldn't change a thing, not even the worm incident. Especially not the worm incident. It builds character. Oliver's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his face did something complicated. What? Eva asked. My father wants to meet. Oliver showed her the text. Says it's time to reconcile. That the boys deserve to know their grandfather. Eva felt familiar anger rise. What did you say? That he can meet them when he acknowledges both of them as equals. Oliver typed rapidly. When he apologizes to you. When he treats our adoption as valid as our biological son. Otherwise, he can stay away. He hit send and pocketed the phone. Think he'll agree? Eva asked. No, Oliver admitted. But that's his choice. We're done compromising who we are for people who don't respect us. Eva watched Marcus trying to teach Leo to throw dirt, unsuccessfully since Leo kept trying to eat it instead, and felt overwhelming gratitude for this chaotic, imperfect, beautiful life. You know what's funny? She said. 3 years ago I thought this marriage was my prison sentence. And now I know it was my escape route. Eva turned to face Oliver fully. You saved me. We saved each other. Oliver pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. Best investment I ever made. He teased. I'm not an investment. You're right. You're a high-risk, high-reward situation that paid off spectacularly. Eva laughed, shoving him playfully. You're lucky I love you. I'm lucky in a lot of ways. Oliver looked at their sons, now both covered head to toe in dirt and completely happy. But mostly, I'm lucky you gave me a chance when I didn't deserve one. You earned it, Eva said honestly. Every day, you earned it. From inside the house, her phone rang. Eva checked the caller ID and her eyebrows rose. Her father. She declined the call and blocked the number without hesitation. Some families were worth fighting for. Others were worth leaving behind. Good choice, Oliver said, watching. The best choice, Eva confirmed. Now come on, we need to rescue Leo before Marcus convinces him that dirt is a food group. They walked toward their sons together, hand in hand, partners in chaos and life and love. Eva Castellano Ricci had been sold into a marriage she didn't want, but she'd built a family she'd die for, and that made all the difference. The end.